Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another edition of SoulsBorne Battle to the Death. And let us hope, or let us not hope, that this episode is not nearly as crazy as the last one. You should probably check out Battle to the Death 41 if you want to see some just straight up nonsense, but hopefully it was entertaining. But this is not 41. This is SoulsBorne Battle to the Death 42. We're going to pick two random SoulsBorne bosses, and then they will paint two different houses, and whoever paints their house the best and the fastest will be the winner. Just straight up time management. That's all we're doing here on SoulsBorne Battle to the Death. That's what everyone came to see, right? Time management between SoulsBorne bosses. All right. Over in the red corner, we have Melania, Blade of Mikola. I believe making her SoulsBorne Battle to the Death debut. Ooh, boy. Oh, man. Melania. Goodness, we love you and we hate you at the same time. Reputed to be the most difficult boss in all of SoulsBorne lore. And I am not one to dispute that charge. So, oh yeah, what a pain in the ass. That waterfowl dance is just straight up nonsense. I am just now figuring out how to dodge some of that. Oh my goodness. Well, it's always a fun time to see Melania, either in Elden Ring or in Battle to Death. So there we have it. Melania graces us with her presence. Let us take this wheel for another spin. Although we shouldn't be worrying too much about Melania today, because today she's going to be painting a house, and we're going to see who is going to be able to paint a house faster than she can and better than she can. So probably won't matter, because she's just going to come over with the waterfowl dance and just take out her competitor while they're painting the house, and it's not going to matter because Melania is going to be the one standing tall. Okay. Melania, over in the red corner, and over in the blue corner, we have Gravelord Nito from Dark Souls 1. He has one of the Lord Souls, I think, in Dark Souls 1. And he does have a lot of help. I'm not allowed to give my opinion on this portion of the show, so alright, Melania and Gravelord Nito. An interesting fight, I guess, to be sure. So, let us go to the contractually obligated bios, and let's have a look at Melania, Blade of Mikola. Melania, Blade of Mikola is the twin sister of the aforementioned Mikola, and as Empyreans, both were slated to ascend to godhood later on in life, but due to their parentage, they were both afflicted with curses. Mikola was afflicted with the curse of eternal nascency, and if in fact I am pronouncing that word correctly, and Melania was afflicted with scarlet rot. Scarlet rot is every bit as nasty as it sounds, and it consumed Melania from the inside out, disfiguring her and leaving her blind. Damned if that was going to stop her, though, because Melania fought to suppress the rot's influence, and did not let it stop her from doing virtually anything. Mikola also fought to cure his sister's affliction, and while he could never cure it, he did eventually invent the unalloyed gold needle, which suppressed the rot's influence, I guess. Miyazaki. That's all I gotta say. So at some point, Melania encounters a legendary blind swordsman who has of the flowed curved greatsword, and that swordsman had also suppressed a outer god of rot, which is way too coincidental for me. The swordsman became her master and endowed her with wings of unparalleled strength, because why not? Over time, Melania became a warrior in a class of her own and would become her brother's sworn blade and protector. When Queen Marika ran out of her meds and shattered the Elden Ring, Melania claimed a shard of the Elden Ring and gained loyal servants in the form of the Clean Rot Knights, who served her despite the putrefaction of their flesh. Melania led this army south and won battles over many demigods, including Godric the Grafted. I don't actually know if Godric the Grafted is a demigod, but he is one of the bosses in Elden Ring, of course. And Godric, I guess, insulted her, which is, especially being Godric, is something, a journey I wouldn't go on. And then was forced to grovel at her feet, as he should. And then, for whatever reason, Melania didn't kill him. So, yeah, she just basically probably decided that he wasn't worth her time and then moved on with her life. So Melania's journey takes her to Caelid, and she and Radahn would be the last two demigods standing, basically, in this War of the Shattering. And the two would basically fight to a standstill, where Melania would unleash her Scarlet Rot for the first time. The onslaught of the Scarlet Rot unleashed by Melania was so devastating that it devastated the entire landscape of Caelid and turned it into a rotting landscape, I guess, is the best definition I can come up with it off the top of my head right this second. But it just turned the entire country, I guess, into just a giant Scarlet Rot flower. Not really, but there's pores growing all over the place, and it's just not a fun place to be. The Scarlet Rot crippled Radahn mentally and caused him to rapidly deteriorate and feast on the corpses of, well, basically anyone that was there. Melania was not left unscathed. She left the battlefield in a coma, and eventually Clean Rot Knight Finley would carry her all the way back to the Haligtree. Now, Miquella had encased himself in the Haligtree in an attempt to reverse his curse. During the time that Melania was gone, Mohg, Lord of Blood, had ripped Miquella out of the Haligtree while he was still in his cocoon, just because Mohg has this fascination with Miquella. There's actually more of the story. It has to do with Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. But so yeah, Mohg stole Miquella and took him away to wherever Mohg goes. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. So Melania just rests at the base of the Haligtree and dreams of Miquella's return, and that's where you come in and disturb her slumber like a complete moron. And then then you end up fighting Melania. And yeah, you likely end up coming to regret that decision, because Melania is reputed to be the toughest boss in all of SoulsBorne lore. Although that is now up for debate, because Miyazaki heard that and then released the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, where he introduced Promised Consort Radahn, who is just absolutely... There are no words. There are no words for this fucking boss. So yeah. That being said, I mean, Melania is still up there. I don't think one boss knocks her off her perch so easily, and certainly does not knock her off the Mount Rushmore very easily. So Melania is still one of the toughest bosses in all of FromSoft history, and yet I want to say beloved. I think she's a beloved boss, but there's definitely a love-hate relationship there with Melania, and it's well deserved on both sides. But she is certainly an awesome boss, and when Melania turns her head towards you and puts her helmet on and whips her sword out, you know that shit's about to go down. After the first flame appeared in the world of Dark Souls, Gravelord Nito was one of the first primordial humanoid beings that appeared underground, bringing life, death, and disparity. Whatever that means. So was he a god or was he not a god? He was one of those who found one of the four Lord Souls, along with Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, the Witch of Izalith, and later the Furtive Pygmy. Nito would die later on, but the power of his soul would bring him back to life, and with the power of necromancy, he would become a living mass of just skeleton corpses, conjoined skeletons, and I'm not so sure if that's a trade-up or not. Nito learned to harness the power of his Lord Soul and crafted it into his sword, the Gravelord Sword, which was capable of bringing death to any living being. Which is true of any sword, really. But yes, this sword is special. I believe it unleashes a toxin that builds up death or something. Nito would ally himself with Gwyn and the Witch of Izalith in their war against the dragons, and after a long battle they would emerge victorious, exterminating most of the archdragons and conquering the world. Afterwards, each of the lords developed their own civilizations in their own different places, and Nito goes back to the catacombs, and he basically becomes responsible for death in all forms, or some such thing. Nito is responsible for the ritual of kindling bonfires, so I guess we have him to thank for that. So thank you, Nito. We really appreciate it. It's very helpful in certain areas. At some point, a necromancer known as Pinwheel manages to come in and steal Nito's right of kindling, which I'd still like to know how that happened. At some point, the followers of a divine cult raid the catacombs and try to steal Nito's mortal power, but they fail and they end up dying down there. So when you play Dark Souls 1, you will eventually cross paths with Nito, because Nito has one of the Lord Souls that you need to get to the end of the game. So, yeah, Nito is one of the top guys, I guess, and he is most certainly a formidable opponent. He's a boss that people like to talk about. People haven't forgotten about Nito, but yeah, he's certainly you don't mess with Nito. You don't mess with death. You know, I think that goes without saying. I think it's a good rule of thumb to not mess with death. So, therefore, you don't mess with Gravelord Nito. If there were a Dark Souls Hall of Fame, or a FromSoft Hall of Fame, or something along those lines, Gravelord Nito would certainly be in it. He is well known and beloved, and people like to talk about him. But that being said, this is Melania we're talking about here, and even with all the helpers that Nito has, I don't think that Nito is fit to kiss Melania's ass, let alone beat her in a fight of any kind. Even if it was a cooking contest, I don't think that Nito would win this fight. Sorry. It's just how I feel. It is Melania after all. I think Melania is just... There's just too much Melania for Nito to deal with. And, yeah, I think Melania makes short work of Nito, quite frankly. And, yeah, that's just how I feel about that. I don't know if anyone's going to be upset about that, but, you know, if you are, I respect your opinion, but, you know, but that is just my opinion. Feel free to leave yours in the comments. And with that, another edition of SoulsBorne Battle to the Death comes to a close. RobertBlanchardBooks.com. If you're interested in reading the Roar of a Dragon series, you can read the first 3 chapters of each book there for free. If you'd like to hear more about them, the Rise of Dragons podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast. My Linktree, my Instagram, and my Twitter are all Bobby's World 2110. If you want to check that out. The Sekiro No Healing Gourd run, the finale, just went up on Monday. It is just over 2 hours of me fighting Ishin. It is an 11-hour battle. And I even put chapters in there to separate it by hour. So you can watch hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and all the way through. It was a long and arduous battle. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But it was still fun. It was still fun. I had a great deal of fun with that. I'm using the word fun too much. And now that that's over with, I'm on to other things. And I think I'm really torn right now. I was going to do Dark Souls 2 and then Dark Souls 1. And then I was going to do Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. And then I decided I wanted to weave Elden Ring in there. And I wanted to do it by volumes because it's such an enormous game. And like Limgrave is going to be Chapter 1. Learning of the Lake is going to be Volume 1 and Volume 2. Respectively. So I think Elden Ring is going to be next. But I also wanted to catch up on some Bobby's World Hunger Games. So I was thinking of doing that next. But you might get one episode of Elden Ring first. I'm just not ready to... Like, I would have to record it, like, right now or tomorrow, the Hunger Games, and it requires a little bit of preparation, so I'm not quite ready to get prepped for that yet, but, so you might get one episode of Elden Ring, the No Crimson Flask run, I should probably specify that, and then we'll take a little break and do 4 or 5 episodes of the Hunger Games and get caught up on that, and then we'll delve back into Elden Ring, and then probably Dark Souls 1, so... Because I'm really looking forward to Dark Souls 1. I really want to do it. But there's so much Elden Ring that I would kind of want to intersplice it between all these different games that I want to do and all these different challenges that I want to do. So that is the plan right now. And as always, you can come back here Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more SoulsBorne Battle to Death. So there you have it. That is the schedule from here on out. Like and subscribe. Notifications and all that junk. I love you guys and I appreciate your support. The podcast, by the way, the Rise of Dragons podcast recently hit 151 downloads. So I love and appreciate you guys for that. It means a lot to me. So thank you so much for that. Be well, stay safe, and as always, it's Bobby's World. And you're all just living in it. CLC for life, y'all. Bye. What's going on, guys? Thank you for checking out the video today. But I got a question for you. Did you know I wrote a book? Did you know I wrote 3 books? Did you know that they're all part of the same series? The Roar of a Dragon, The Treachery of a Weasel, and The Cry of a Raven. ReadersFavorite.com says that its intensity rivals that of the Game of Thrones series. Now, I personally think that's crazy, but it's not for me to judge. It's for you to judge. Go to RobertBlanchardBooks.com and you can check out the books right now. But wait, that's not all. All 3 books got 5-star reviews in ReadersFavorite.com. These books won the silver medal in the Literary Titan Awards. The Cry of a Raven won silver at the Global eBook Awards. So what are you waiting for? Read about Aiden's dream to become a Knight of Delmar. Read about his death and resurrection. Oops, I gave that away, didn't I? And read about his journey back home from 3,000 years in the future to stop the evil that started in Delmar. Go to RobertBlanchardBooks.com. You can read the first 3 chapters of each book there for free. And then, if you're interested, you can buy the books there as well. And if you've already read the books or you just want to hear more about them, you can check out the Rise of Dragons podcast. You can listen to it wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And in every episode, I cover a character from the book, an event from the book, my journey into writing, and everything in between. Ripley, what do you got to say about all this?
Give me a treat or I will end you.
You know she's telling you to check out the books. Go to RobertBlanchardBooks.com to check out the books or listen to the Rise of Dragons podcast if you want to hear about them. That's all I got to say, and thank you for watching this video.